The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken.
And this is Ghostbox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakken, and thank you very much for joining me tonight. I am going to be on my way to Wabasha, Minnesota, where we have that wonderful event with Dave Schrader at the Anderson House. This has been months in the making, and I am really excited that this is finally here. Excited and nervous for any of you who listen to the Monday program where we had Dave Schrader on. You may have known, some people mentioned me, like, Greg, you seemed a little off on that. And it's like, yeah, I'm always a little off talking around Dave Schrader because I don't want to sound like an idiot. And, I think I still fulfilled the prophecy on Monday's show. I still remember some of the stuff I said where it's just like, oh my goodness, did I really say that? But that's just how it goes, I guess. So anyway, I'm going to do my best not to make a fool of myself this weekend at Wabasha, Minnesota, and over at the Anderson House. And don't forget, folks, for those of you who are going down there and might be listening to this, don't forget, we're just 20 miles away from Lake City and Lake Pepin, where the lake monster Pepe is said to be. So there's always that as well. You know, since I've been going nightly, one of the things that people bring up to me, one of the episodes that people bring up to me all the time was the night that I had on Anna Maria Manalo, and we talked about the night visitants. And that book, I mean, it scared people. And literally, it did. I've gotten a number of people who are said that they were really freaked out by what we were talking about, and a number of them actually bought the book. And you may note that there was two names on that book. You had Anna Maria, and then you had Tom Conwell, and that's who we're speaking to today. Ufologist Tom Conwell has been an electronic technician with the U.S. Navy and Honeywell Incorporated for 42 years. A Honeywell temperature control, fire alarm, and security software specialist, biomedical engineer, is fire alarm level 2 certified, a metrologist, study of measurements, and an HVAC engineering resource. Tom has wide-ranging expertise with a keen awareness of physics, computer, and internet software, and broad knowledge of electronics and how it intersects with the paranormal world and UFOs. Tom studies databases as forensic pattern researcher. Over the past 6 years, Tom has written 3 volumes of a book series. They Are Here, Volume 1, 2, and 3, self-published, and a collection of blogs, Going Interstellar, Completed Earthquakes and UFOs, and his latest work refers to more than 15 encounters with the unknown, the night visitants, has studied and researched UFO sighting reports from the U.S. to East Coast and Central U.S. and the Western U.S. and given speeches about each of these subjects. Tom has assembled a map of UFO sightings revealing many anomalies and is now an integral part of his research studies. Tom, welcome to Ghostbox Radio.
How do I follow that?
Well, You know what, Tom? Well, this is what this tells me. We're going to have a great show because there is so much to talk with you about. I mean, it's just I'm reading this and I'm like, my gosh, I just would like to get to know you and hang out with you and just talk about this stuff. I mean, it's really, really very interesting. And like I mentioned at the start of the program, you know, as you've listened to the episode that we had Anna Maria on, and honestly, there is a lot of concepts in the short amount of time that we talked about that book. How did you get to this point of being a part of this book and coming up with it?
Well, when I would make postings on Facebook, and that was probably about once a week, I tried to say things that were somewhat challenging to people.
Yep.
And I was looking to get the responses. And Anna was one of the people that always responded to me. And then one of the times I started throwing out some of the things that have happened to me. And she said to me, I think what we ought to do is put a book together with with the events that have happened to you.
Yeah.
And I said, well, all right, that's fine. But I just didn't know how it was going to go. I don't look at myself as anything special. I'm just an average guy having really above average experiences. So I said, okay, fine, let's go. Let's see what happens. And she started interviewing me. And it seems like just about every day that we'd have an interview, I would start telling the story, and she'd go, "What? You did what? They said what?" It was like a constant, well, with her, because she couldn't believe her ears, and I actually couldn't believe the things that happened to me once I wrote them down. It was just unbelievable, just hard to put my finger on. There were just these things that would happen. Seeing a man made of light. Thoughts were put into my head at night when I was asleep.
Right.
The various sightings that I would have. One in particular was a sphere that charged the car and skipped off the windshield. Who the heck can make this stuff up? Well, it's just crazy.
It's amazing, and I don't know if this sounds good or doesn't sound good, but if we're talking to somebody who has been an electronic technician with the U.S. Navy and Honeywell, it's easier to believe, I think, in some regards, and I don't mean to be disparaging to anyone who doesn't have that pedigree and has had stuff happen, but do you know what I mean? This is you're somebody that I think a lot of people would look at and be like, well, he's going to go through the motions of trying to kind of debunk what he's seen, and if he's saying this, there might be something to this.
Yeah, and I did that for many, many years before I started to believe the weird stuff that was happening. I just dismissed it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I could remember them, and I was able to actually write them down and talk to Anna about it. But it was interesting, let me tell you.
So you've had this stuff happen to you, and you said you're an average person that has above average things and extraordinary things happen to you. What do you think it is that's being drawn to you, that all this stuff is happening?
I look at myself, and this is as a result of years of messages and things that people would say to me when I was asleep, mm-hmm. whoever these people happen to be, and I got the impression that they wanted me to do something for them. And that impression was brought about by the tone of the messages. At night, sometimes they were very forceful. Other times they were suggestive. Mm-hmm. And the times that they were forceful, I gathered that I should be saying something the next day about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And those are the items that usually got the most responses. This is very interesting. Some of the things that I was told to do and say. because I never would have said them on my own.
So do you think that they were employing you, so to speak, as a mouthpiece for them?
Yes, I absolutely do. But let me tell you, it took me years to get to that point.
Sure. And what was it then that made you decide, that kind of rang to you as like, okay, I get it now. I see what they want.
It was probably some of the sightings. One in particular was the Coast Guard guy that called up and said that he had he may have aliens in his house, and that he wanted me to come to the house and look at his evidence and let him know what I think.
And this was at the start of the book, right?
Yeah, it was the very beginning.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah. So yeah.
Do you want me to continue, or did you have a question?
Nope. Please do.
Okay. Alrighty. So they asked me to come to the house. At least this one person asked me, and he identified himself as a Coast Guard lieutenant, and that he had heard about me through some of my writings, and by those I assume that he was speaking about some of the blogs that I was writing.
Yeah.
And he wanted to hear what my opinion was of what he was seeing, the events that happened to him. Well, some of these events were just basic things, seeing balls of light outside of his house. That's not really a big deal, although it could potentially be.
Right.
And some of the things that he showed me on videos that he had with this security system that he said was given to him by his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I okay, fine, but some of these things were very well done. I mean, as far as the video goes, they were of extremely high quality.
Oh.
I also had some time while I was with Honeywell that I worked with security, and I looked at one of his cameras, and they use the same kind of cameras that we used in our security systems, and these are high-priced things.
Sure.
So I was a little bit unsure about this guy's story, whether he was actually a guy from the Coast Guard. I was unsure whether his girlfriend bought him the system, and he said the system was throughout his entire house, so someone had to install it for him, and we're talking fairly big bucks here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, we saw a picture of a sphere travel through a wall into an indoor area, and it was picked up by yet another camera, and all this was put together seamlessly, and it was picked up by the second camera, and he showed that go across the room and into the bedroom.
Mm.
Well, I didn't know what to think. I mean, this was really good. And he said, "Do you think I have ghosts, Tom?" And he kept calling me Tom. Fine, that was my name, but it was the way he said it.
How did he say it? What was it that was that
okay.
just odd to you about that?
Every time he showed me something, he would say to me, "What do you think of this, Tom? Is this a ghost, Tom? Could I be seeing extraterrestrials, Tom. He kept doing that over and over and over with everything he showed me. And he showed me a lot.
Yeah.
And I was just put off by that. He actually talked like an FBI agent, if you want to know the truth.
Well, and that's what I was kind of wondering about a little bit because of the equipment and stuff. Tom, can we do this so that we can let's hit our first break, because I don't want to interrupt the rest of your story, and
Okay.
we can pick it up here in a second. We are talking about the night visitants. We have Tom Conwell on with us, and I think this is going to be a very fascinating conversation. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. And welcome back to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakken. Thank you for joining me tonight. We have Tom Conwell with us, ufologist, and we've been talking about the night visitants. And I'm always very reluctant to have to interrupt a story to go to break, but sometimes we have to. So we were talking about the first story in the book of the night visitants, and a very strange occurrence of somebody. And you said that they claimed that they're in the Coast Guard, right, Tom?
Yeah, that's what he said.
And that they took you to the place. And I remember while reading the book and reading that part of it that it really came across that, number one, it doesn't seem to me very often that you are actually going to meet people at places, but also it seemed like that was kind of frustrating that the place that he wanted you to go after you had your first meeting was like an hour away. And then you talked about how the equipment was really pretty high quality stuff. And where we kind of ended off was that it sounded like that maybe this person isn't exactly what he says he is, and it might even be like an FBI agent or something.
I have been interviewed quite a few times with my time in the Navy and my security clearances that by the FBI.
Yeah.
And you can just tell. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but you can just tell when someone is from the FBI. I mean, you just know it.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy came across like that.
Yeah.
Well, he said, he kept saying, "What do you think of this, Tom?" Well, then we jumped to something. He said, "Tom, do you think that I have ghosts in the house?" And I said, based on what I'm seeing here, it almost seems like you have elementals.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I said that what I could do for you is to try to contact a local shaman and get them out here and have them bless your house. And usually that takes care of something in the way of elementals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he thought maybe I was shutting him down or something. He said to me, "Tom, do you want to see a ship?" And what do you mean a ship? He said, a UFO. And I said, well, you have a video of one? He said, yes, it's up on the server. Well, that's another thing that bothered me. All right. If he has a server that's doing all this stuff, he spent an awful lot of money on this thing. Okay. But anyhow,
right.
We'll go out. We had to go outside. We're on a downstairs, almost like a Florida room. Okay.
Yep.
And he took us out back and up the stairs into his back door, and he got his keys out, and he couldn't get his own door open.
Like he's never been there before?
Just like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And he eventually was fumbling around and he got the door open, and he opened it up and said, you'll have to excuse the mess inside. Well, everything was perfect. There was no mess. I mean, everything was perfect. He had a shirt, or it could have been a light jacket, over the back of a chair. But other than that, there was nothing out of place in here. Almost like he had a group of people come in and stage the house. So anyhow, we went into the other room and we put his server on and got the monitor on. And he said, let me call that up for you, Tom. Now, I was pretty familiar with this software that he used. I've seen it before. And he couldn't get his software running. I didn't say anything to him. I mean, I could have wrecked him right there, but no, I was patient.
Yep.
And he finally got something running, and he showed me this picture of a UFO that was about 20 feet. I'm going to repeat that. It was about 20 feet from the camera.
Huh.
It was just enormous, and you could see incredible features on the thing. It almost looked like piping, but it wasn't piping. I don't know what it was, but he showed me the entire underside of this craft as it went by his camera. And he said, isn't that unbelievable? And I said, where was this picture taken? He said, from the camera, and he pointed over to the window. The window camera, he says, is pointing up, and this thing went by it. I went, okay. So the first thing I did was check on the window. Yep. I walked over to the window and looked out, and there was an awful lot of leaf cover.
Oh.
So there's no way it was taken from that camera.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, it was so clear and bright that it looked like it was taken in the desert Southwest.
Nowhere even near where you were.
That's what it looked like.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
So, we said that everything was great, and we thanked them profusely for showing us the video. And he said, I need to ask you, Tom, what are you going to do with this information? Yeah, what are you going to do with this information? And I said, well, can I have a copy of the video? And now, before I could even get video out, he said no. So I said, well, I guess there's nothing I can do with it, is there? Huh. And he said, no, I guess not. So anyhow, we left the house. There were three of us. We left the house out the back door, the same door he couldn't get in before. So we went out the back door and down the stairs to the sidewalk, and the sidewalk went around the house to the front where we had parked our cars. So the first thing I did when I got out there is I looked up at where the camera was.
Yep.
And there was a total and complete canopy coverage. And in other words, perhaps some light streamed through in spots, but that's about all you'd get through.
So impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I didn't say anything to him. I didn't say anything to anybody else, and I didn't publicize that event. But I sure as heck didn't forget about it.
Did you ever feel, because the one thing that I was kind of, when I was reading it, I just felt to myself, this just feels like you had someone with you, but it just felt dangerous. Did you ever feel like in any danger or anything?
You bet. I thought I wasn't coming home that night.
Wow.
I mean, that's exactly how I felt when he started to grill me with, what do you think of this, Tom? Yeah. That was my first thought.
You got to wonder what would have happened when he said, what are you going to do with this? And say that you were like, well, I'm going to maybe not write something that leaves your name out of it or something, or just anything. You got to wonder what the purpose was and what they wanted to do with you. That's frightening.
I think what they wanted was to find out what I knew.
Sure.
And they wanted me to spill everything, because when I wrote the blogs that I later turned into a book, Going Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote these blogs, they got a little bit technical at times. But what I tried to do is, when there was a highly technical subject, I tried to get super simple so that everybody could pick up this book and read it and understand where I was coming from.
Absolutely.
So, and also what I did was I kept the price of this book artificially low so that everybody could buy it, that there'd be no excuse.
And you know what I'm going to do? I think, is this available on Amazon?
Yes, it is.
Because I'm gonna go ahead. What I do, Tom, is on ghostboxradio.com. I do what's called the Ghostbox Book Club, and I'll add that to it for people who, it's just easy for people to go and see all the authors we have on, and they can find your book and order it as well. So it's just nice and easy. You know, this is really something. And you know, one of the things that Anna Maria talked about when we had our conversation was the non-alien entities, and you had talked about elementals. She had talked about stories with something that could well have been like a Sasquatch or something, also like possibly a reptoid. Is this something that's in your wheelhouse in terms of not surprising, or was that even surprising to you?
Well, that was kind of surprising to me when I had read it. I don't know anything about that particular subject,
Mm-hmm.
and don't profess to. So when I read about it in the book, I thought it was pretty interesting.
It is, and it just kind of what's interesting about that. It really kind of the Night Visitants takes and brings pretty much everything into it, which is kind of cool, actually. As far as your experience, though, and kind of getting away from the book per se, but your own experiences, you get these messages, you relay them. Do you ever see who's giving you those messages?
No, and I have been asking at night
Mm-hmm.
that it's time that we meet. I'd like to talk with you. So one of the things that happened to me was a dream that I had. I suspect it wasn't a dream. I think they influenced it. But I found myself walking down a path in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and it was damp outside. And well, because it was the fall, all the leaves had fallen down. And as I'm walking, the leaves are sticking to my feet. And I walk out and around a corner, and there was this white egg-shaped ship.
Oh.
It was only about 6 feet tall. And there was a guy sitting outside of it. And as I walked up toward him, I realized I couldn't look at him. He was made out of light, and he was just brilliant. I couldn't even see him. I could just see the peripheral of him. And he said to me, we would like to borrow your energy so you can heal the person who's my shipmate, the person with me on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, is this your ship right here? And he said, yes. And I remember looking at it. The thing was only 6 feet high. How the heck could he be flying in a ship that's only 6 feet high?
Right.
And he was about 5 feet. So
That's cramped.
what the heck was that, you know? So he said, why don't you come on the ship, and my friend will tell you what you need to do. So, well, since this was a dream, I said, sure, I'll come on the ship. So I walked onto the ship, and as soon as I stepped inside this thing, I looked around, and it was, well, huge.
Bigger on the inside than out, huh?
Oh my goodness sakes. It was
TARDIS.
absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And he walked me over to where his friend was lying. He was lying down and he said to me, just stand there while I use your energy and you can heal me.
Wow.
And I remember standing there for some short period of time. And then he got up and he was fine. And he said, I want to thank you very much for sharing your energy with me. Perhaps we'll meet again. So he walked me off of his ship, down the little stairway, and I started walking toward my house, and bingo, I woke up in bed. And the first thing I did when I woke up in bed is I reached down for my feet because I knew that there were leaves stuck to my feet. But my feet were slightly damp, or maybe that was just me, but there were no leaves on my feet.
Wow.
Which would have been interesting. But it was that real, Greg. I mean, it was that real.
That's pretty incredible. I have a question to ask you, but what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take our next break. And when we come back, I have a question for Tom about everything that's been going on. That is kind of an odd question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And we're going to continue talking about night visitants and everything else that a ufologist like Tom could talk about. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. As I mentioned in the last segment, we are going to put some of Tom Conwell's books on GhostboxRadio.com. Go to Ghostbox Book Club and see what we have there. I probably won't be able to get to it till Monday, but you can also go to Amazon and look up Tom Conwell, see what he's written, and definitely take a look. This is some very, very interesting stuff. Also, tomorrow is going to be Casual Friday, but it's going to be one without me, so to speak. It's going to be a rerun because I'm going to be in Wabasha. So still, I hope you listen. We're going to pull something from the archive for you to listen to. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be on Monday or not as well, but Tuesday I will be back, and we will have another great week of wonderful conversations. We do have Tom Conwell with us. We are finishing up our conversation, our last segment. Tom, I have an odd question to ask you, and don't be offended when I say this. Do you think that you have alien origin to you?
You mean like a starseed?
Kind of like a starseed, or that you are you may have a mom and dad, but maybe there is some sort of alien interference of some kind. I mean, the idea that you have been so closely associated your entire life just makes me just want to ask the question, I guess.
Yeah. I don't say this out loud very much because I obviously have no proof.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you say, "Oh, I'm a starseed," well, who the heck can stand up and disagree with you? You know. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, I think probably, but I don't know.
Do you ever see other people and kind of get the idea that they might be some kind of like that they might be also touched by that sort of origin? And I don't mean like you look at them and you're like, oh gosh, that's one of them, but just that you get a vibe from someone that might be like, even if they don't even know it themselves.
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
Wow, I didn't expect that question. What does that look like?
Or do we save that for your next appearance on the show?
Yikes. Just something that comes across that is just so danged odd about it. I mean, I just don't know how else to say it. It's just something's out of place with who they are, who they say they are, and what my perception of them happens to be.
Do you know, and this could get me in a lot of trouble, do you know who I feel like I have that feeling whenever I see this person? Is Grush, who did the congressional hearings.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Just watching him talk, watching him, it's a very strange thing, and it's not meant with disrespect towards him at all. It's just that there's something that's just very different about him.
Yeah, if I would have put that one into words, I would have said that he is probably hidden in some way, like cloaking or a ghost. Or, I don't know what the right word would be, but he is he's influenced so that he looks different than what he is.
Exactly. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
And you bring up the cloaking part of it. I have a theory or a thought that aliens could kind of cloak themselves. Like, for all I know, in the studio I'm in right now, there could be someone in the corner watching me, and I'd have no idea about that. Do you think I'm completely off base with that?
No. I believe that they are comfortable in their own fifth dimension, which we can't access. And they can do and say whatever they want to do and say and go wherever they want to go, and we won't know any different.
Yeah, no, talking about combining the paranormal with, or paranormal equipment with ufology or aliens, I did a spirit box session back in February where I specifically were trying to reach any sort of alien response, and the responses I got were actually pretty chilling, but it also had an adverse effect on my health and on other people who were, because it was a live stream, other people who had watched as well. And it also stopped equipment from working, such as my cell phone, a couple other people's cell phone. And what really kind of bothered me, or what was most frightening about it, was shortly thereafter, the next day, out of nowhere, I had this tremendous nosebleed. And I'm still kind of coming to terms with that a little bit, because it is so profound. And I've tried this sort of thing a couple times, but I was more pointed with it this time. And the responses I got from the box were very frightening, quite frankly. One of the responses I got is, "We're coming." And this was when I sped up the box to be a higher, quicker sweep, and it started to go faster than I've ever heard it go before. And then I said, you're coming to Earth? And they said, "For you." And so those are things that was not great.
Fun.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're going to do that, you're going to have to expect that's going to happen, right?
Exactly. And one of the things that occurred to me is this never appeared in the book, because it happened pretty much as the writing of the book was ending. But I woke up one morning with a black eye.
Oh, wow.
Like half of my eye to the outside of my head was black.
Did that take a while to heal, or did it heal quickly?
No, it very quickly.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
But by the afternoon, it was pretty much gone.
That's messed up.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, I lived it. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the interesting thing about it, that I think, we have those congressional hearings, which are interesting and whatever, but part of me, I personally seem to be more and more interested in stories like what you're talking about, because that's the stuff that, you start listening to people who have had these interactions, and even though they're not talking to each other, and you're finding similarities and commonalities that I don't think you can ignore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's people who are also, they're waking up and they have bruises that they can't explain and that they go away quickly. I've had a friend of mine on the show, talk about dreams he had with children that are basically in an incubation center where you're looking at someone who is, half alien looking and human looking, and it wasn't a one dream, it was another dream sometime later, but it was a continuation, and these things are really, they're important to listen to and they're important to document.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, one of the dreams that I had, they told me that, well, the voices in my head, whatever they were, said that they will be seeding our planet with hybrids.
Yeah.
And these hybrids will be extremely intelligent and take over everything.
That's interesting.
I mean, where the heck did that come from?
Right?
I don't know.
and so now you have this information, and but it seems like more like an infiltration within the ranks, so to speak, embedded in our existence, rather than some sort of like the sky is dotted with hundreds of spaceships coming down as far as any sort of invasion. That this is more of an infiltration.
I had one of those dreams too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did that not end well, or?
Well, no. I woke. Well, I found myself standing out in the hallway watching myself sleep, and I got up from the bed and ran to the window and looked up, and there was this line of flying saucers, or whatever you want to call them, that went as far as the eye could see.
Wow.
That was the whole thing. Boom, gone.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
And, I wanted to also ask you, getting back to that you had asked whoever is speaking to you, it's time to meet. Do they ever answer that, or do they ignore it and just keep talking to you?
They pretty much ignore it and keep talking. Now, I had an unfortunate occurrence recently where I ended up in the hospital, and since then I have not had a dream or an interaction at night, and I think they wanted me to get better. That's all I can. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
So it's not over. It's just to allow you to rest.
I think so.
Well, that would be good. That'd be good. And and the stuff that you post these messages and stuff. So that clearly plays a big part in the let's just say the possible FBI agent or whatever that situation was that you went out to, which once again, very frightening. As soon as Anna Maria had written that you all had to drive an hour out of like nowhere, that to me it was just like that's stranger danger right there. That's scary stuff.
Yep, it was.
And I don't know. I mean, and that's why the stuff like the night visitants is really important to take a read. And I've been reading it. You know what it's like doing a nightly show. Sometimes it's hard to find the time to read, but I've been consistently chopping away at that book because it is very good, and it's concepts. You read the book and you're just like, well, okay, what Tom just went through there, that's kind of X-Files, like whatever. And it's like, well, remember this is real, and remember the stuff that the interviews that you had conducted, that they are people who believe they're telling the truth. So that takes it to a very different level.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And
and that's just. What is that? Just about that's 50 of, but there was more interviews, right? And you just took the best of, what was it, 15, right, or something like that?
Yeah, there were 15 pretty interesting interviews.
Yeah.
15 people that I believed, the rest I didn't, and the story about Shailene, that was also in the book. Shailene is one of the ones that I absolutely believed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the end of that book, you'll go, oh my goodness.
Well, and I think that's the interesting thing too, is that you have a lot of people, just like when I run into people who want to, go and interact with spirits or want to hear about it, there's something about hearing it versus the reality that it's very much happening. It's very much there. You are living that life. You are getting those communications and stuff. And you got to wonder how much longer it's going to be before they start resuming communications with you again. I don't know if you've done a lot of interviews since you've been in the hospital, but even doing one now, you got to wonder if that's going to start something up again for you.
Who knows? Who knows? They do what they're going to do, and I just try to get as much sleep as I can. When I start waking up at 4 a.m. Continuously and can't get back to sleep, then that's usually my clue that somebody's in my ear talking to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And do you think that they are physically in the room, or are they just broadcasting to you?
Well, I had one event where 2 Native American men came in and did what they were going to do. They came up to me and put their hands on my chest, and I felt myself pop up in the air, and I was levitating.
So,
and boom, couldn't remember anything else.
I'm going to have to stop us there, Tom. We're running out of time.
Yep.
Folks, go get the Night Visitants. Go to Amazon, look up Tom Conwell, get everything else. I'll be back tomorrow with Casual Friday. Tom, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thank you. Yep.